recording. So, hello. This is our first class for IT286, Foundations of Game Production. Basically, I need to get you up and running comfortably to understand all the systems of the Unity engine and the Unity editor so that you can be self-sufficient as you work in the game design classes, as you develop your ideas, or in our more later stage gaming classes where you work in groups or go to game jams. So just trying to get your proficiency of Unity up. We will be focusing a lot on programming, but the major systems, gaming systems I should say, we're going to be looking at are animation, physics, programming in Visual Studio, and everything you need to know about the Unity editor to like break apart a game and build it back up so that you could be independent or hopefully independent as a game developer. This class basically has like no prereq. Everything's from scratch. You're not assumed to have known anything going in. We'll be focusing on Unity Engine and C#. And speaking of which, while I'm talking, if you could download Unity. So if you click on this link, or you can just go directly to the website and go to download. But you can see the link takes you to the download page. So you will have to create a Unity ID. We will be using the free personal version of Unity. You can use your NGIT email to create the Unity ID. That's preferred. Otherwise, you can use your personal email. In either case, you're creating a Unity ID that's for the personal plan, the free plan. There is a student plan too. And you can sign up for that. It's free. It's the same as the personal plan. It's the same feature set. But do not sign up for the pro version because you don't need to pay for it. All right. So create your Unity ID and download for either Windows or Mac, whatever you're on. And when you do download it, it'll be a pretty quick download. What it's going to do, it's going to download and install this Unity Hub. This is going to be the first step in your journey. Unity Hub looks like this. Unity Hub is manages your Unity editor installs. So if I click over here, you can have multiple versions of Unity editor installed. And it manages your projects. So you're going to have no projects to start with. That's fine. But once you have Unity Hub installed, you want to go into Installs and click on Install Editor. And you notice I already have one installed. You don't have any, more than likely. Or if you've already gone through this, you're ahead of the game. And what you want to pick is LTS, long-term support. Just go for the 2002 one, whichever version is the most up to date, and install it. And when you install it, there'll be like a dialogue, like where do you want to install it, and what parts do you want to install. And for now, you're just interested in saying you want the documentation and you want the Visual Studio development environment. And that install process is going to be lengthy. And sometimes for first-time people, sometimes the Unity editor install process will fail, and it might say like validation failed or something. And most students, if you just uninstall that Unity editor and reinstall it, go through the process of installing it, it'll be fine. And for some of you, you're going to have to restart your computer because after like you install Unity Hub, you just need a fresh boot, and everything will be fine with installing Unity Editor. So if you could start that process, it'll probably take you the rest of the class. First step, create your Unity ID. Next step, install Unity Hub and get that running. Yes. Yeah, well, that stuff will work as well. Yep. You might be on you might want to make sure your Unity Hub is updated. The question was, I already took a previous Unity class and I have stuff installed. Then yeah, just make sure your Unity Hub is updated. It'll say like there's a new version, restart it. You should be on a version like this. And then in installs, just make sure, if you have older installs, it's fine. Just make sure you're using the 2022. Hopefully, this close to this version. It doesn't have to be the exact one, but 2022.3. So just so like the class is on the same page. And you'll be good to go. And yeah, if you're in that class, we're going to be using those micro games to dig into all the Unity systems like animation and physics. We're focusing on production here. We're not designing games. We're not building games. We're actually looking at all the nuts and bolts, from shaders to meshes to animators to animations, to the transforms, the camera, just everything. And with a heavy focus on coding.
Professor,
Mm-hmm.
which one? So if we need to install the 2022 version, right? Oh, not the 2023?
So let's see, install editor. You could, but I would prefer that we just focus on the launch. This is a nice stable version, so I would prefer to do the 2022.3. If you care to dabble in here, that's fine. But if it's crashing and stuff because it's unstable, it's going to be on you. It's not going to be part of the class to diagnose why a beta version is not running that well.
Got it.
So again, by this time you should have Unity Hub installed, and under installs, and you click install editor. Here's the one that you should be aiming for. Install, and the default settings will probably say, do you want to install the documentation in Visual Studio? I'd say yes, and just go through the install process. It will be lengthy. Some of you will fail. It's all right. And while that's happening, definitely post up in the chat panel as you have questions or if things are not working as expected. I'm going to go back to Canvas and talk about the class. Cool. So, yes, Hub. Well, Hub will give you a little pop. It'll say like there'll be like a little thing up here, like there's a newer version. Do you want to update it? You just say yes. It'll go through the process. The editor install, like once you install this version, it'll like you'll have different you can install higher versions, but when you install version, it'll stay as that. So yeah, if there's nothing there, everything should be good. Yep. And here's like Unity Hub's most recent is 3.7.0, just as a reference. Cool. Let me just check the weather again. I'm pretty sure Friday will be fine. It is predicted to be snow, but nothing like today. Not like today was crazy, but Friday just says 60% chance of rain. So I'm pretty sure of snow. Sorry, I'm pretty sure it'll just be a dusting. It'll be fine to meet in person. So in person and WebEx, here's the WebEx link. Here's my name. I'm Eric Nersessian. You can call me Eric. Here's my email address. I'm very responsive outside class time with email, and if we need to, we could have like impromptu meetups on WebEx. What generally will happen is on Tuesdays, I'll probably like lecture for half the class time, like 40 minutes, and then I'll let you experiment and do what I did, and come up with questions. And then Friday is kind of the same thing. I'll probably lecture half the time and then let you do what I did and break stuff apart and try to learn all the parts of Unity, and then ask me anything. And I've got the class broken up into 4 sections, and we're going to do a quiz at the end of them. So just a general overview of the semester, I guess. We have Section 1. Here's the start and end dates. Section 2, right at the end of Section 2, we'll have spring break week, and that'll divide Section 2 by Section 3. Here's Section 3, and Section 4, which overlaps into finals week. And so for each section, there'll just be a quiz. So it'd be 3 weeks of like lecture and like open lab time, and then the ending. I'll probably do a lecture on that Tuesday, and then do a quiz on that Friday. And so Friday will be like quiz day, more than likely. And the quizzes aren't meant to mess you up. They're going to be multiple choice. It's going to be on Canvas. You don't have to come in and take them. No proctoring. Just take like basically probably around a 15 question multiple choice test. And when you'll have 80 minutes to take it. And when you take it, 15 questions. Like if you're following along with me, each question might take you about a minute or two. So, it should take you like 30, 40 minutes, but you have 80 minutes to do it. So each 4 quizzes, 25% of your grade. Since we're kind of, I assume no knowledge coming in, everyone's starting with Unity with low level of experience and breaking up all these game systems and understanding how they work. You're not going to, I'm not doing like a project oriented class where you're building stuff. You're just like learning all the systems, and so I'm going to do a quiz based format. And the syllabus just goes into the details of that. So this is the description, the class description that's on the registry. It's a little out of date. It does need to be updated, but the general gist of it is correct. You're learning game development. This program, IT game development program, does focus on the Unity game engine and C#. C# is a high-level object-oriented programming language, very similar to Java. It is easy to learn, although learning a programming language for the first time I know is difficult, and we're just going to start all the concepts from scratch. And we do have a DD school. I don't know if some of you are coming over from DD taking this class, but DD normally focuses on Unreal Engine and visual scripting. But here we're dealing with the IT game development, so we'll be in Unity and C#. A lot of the concepts are very similar. It's just we're actually going to be using a programming language. And we have 4 sections, a quiz for each. That's 25 points per quiz for 100 points. And if you do miss the quiz, that's a 0 unless something real happens, get a letter from the Dean of Students, and I can work with you. And definitely work together, learn from each other. You can work on gaming projects. You can do study groups. Just when you take the quizzes, you're going to have to take them by yourself. Academic integrity. So your quiz work is you. Attendance policy. We do meet on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'll be in the campus on GATC 3200, the gaming lab. But you can come in WebEx, and I'm also going to record all my lectures, so attendance is optional. Constructive criticism. Everyone's really scared to show stuff and show like their weakness and stuff, so everyone has to be very respectful of each other. We're in a learning situation. Grading policy. Course materials. You need to have your laptop capable of running Unity and Visual Studio. Before I get into course topics, let me just, I forgot to mention, so this is going to be a messy semester. I'm going to apologize beforehand. My wife is like 3 weeks from giving birth. Like, it could be early February, it could be mid-February. When it does happen, I'm going to apologize. It's going to be messy. I'm going to disappear for a few days. I'm going to be stuck in a hospital. Eventually, we'll be allowed to go home, and I'll resume as needed. So if all of a sudden there's like a disruption to the course, I'm sorry. But we'll like stop, for for a week. Or if I might think about pre-recording if like it's pretty obvious it's coming in a week or something. I might just get ahead and be like, okay, this week it's videos on there or something. I don't know. But if like all of a sudden we don't have class for a week, it's not like, oh, this quiz is due, and or I'm not gonna rush stuff if like all of a sudden we have to go from four quizzes to three quizzes or something. Just you're gonna have to um, you know be be flexible with me. And so yes, thank you. Appreciate the congratulations. There, second child. We also have a 3-year-old. He's very rambunctious, so you might hear him from time to time. And So anyway, I apologize if sometimes I need to do the class online and I'm not on campus, or I apologize if I disappear for like a week. But when that disappearance happens, it'll be temporary. And I always I send out announcements. So I notice I do everything through Canvas, and I send out announcements. So for example, I sent out an announcement about not being here today. I sent it out this morning, and you should get an email. So please watch out for your emails, and always go on Canvas and just check the announcements or whatever, just to make sure. Like, I don't want if things become it's bouncing this semester. So if you could just check your emails and check Canvas and stuff, so that if I need to do some parts some days out of the class online, or if I disappear because of the birth, you'll know what's happening. Cool. I appreciate the understanding. So we'll get through this. And so that's the structure of the class and the syllabus, right? So anyway, some of the topics I want. So the point of this class is I need to make you independent. I need to make you functioning. Basically, give you a whole overview of what the game engine is about and how to use it, and so that when you get tossed into team projects or other people, or you have to build something, like you kind of know how to use the asset store to find some free stuff. You know how to like grab external resources and start plugging them into your gaming project. Like no matter what the game team needs, from a game jam to a team class, like you'll be able to like help out where you can, whether it's programming or whether it's level building or bringing in assets and cleaning them and prepping them, integration, or whether it's building shaders or finding shaders and connecting them up, or knowing how to look at models, see if they're clean, or knowing how to look at the animation system and build your own animations, or how to use the physics system. So that's why my course topics are broken out like this. So over the course of the semester, we have to get really good at using Unity. That includes Unity Hub, that includes Unity Editor, that includes Visual Studio. Understanding all the concepts that come along with a game engine. They're pretty stabilized, standardized these days. Knowing how to understand gameplay programming, so object-oriented programming with C#. Understanding how to be proficient with the Visual Studio development environment. How to use the Unity Engine API, how to look up the documentation. How to know how to use gameplay events are going to be really big, like the update loop and start. The essence of the Unity parts, the assets, the game objects, components. We're going to have to spend some time with external resources. This is actually, I should have a few more stuff in here talking about prefabs and meshes, materials, but basically how to get something on screen, all the parts that come together for 2D, UIs, 3D, understanding what shaders are. We're not doing shader programming. We'll look at the shader graph and like how shaders are pieced together in a visual coding type way. But shaders is like huge, and it takes a long time to really understand them. Even like a whole class of shaders is really just kind of scratching the surface. But I'll let you know how to like understand from the asset store what this stuff is. And as I talk about the asset store, this is the link to it. I should probably put this link up too. find like free stuff, bring it in. I mean, you can find paid stuff too, but as a student, normally you're interested in free stuff. So, for example, if I wanted to see 3D stuff and see free, let's just say I wanted this low poly simple nature set to like build a level. Like, what does this mean? How do I bring this in to my Unity project, and how do I make use of it? Sorry, wrong one. Yeah, so that was all the assets, like shaders, which kind of all get connected up. Like they're not, all this stuff doesn't stand on its own. It's like usually you'll bring an asset in, have all this stuff comes along for the ride. So you have to know how to break it apart and look at all the part and what you're trying to change. And then animations, we have the animation window. You have to know how to work with keyframes and curves, also how to animate by code. Code routines are really big. Multi-threaded programming. Usually it's used to like run animations without stuff. It will get into single-threaded, multi-threaded, why this exists. In physics, it's huge, not only for doing physics simulations, but when you're trying to figure out where stuff is and what the user's looking at or clicking on, or if other game objects are about to interact or enter the space of others, for a lot of logic with your game programming. We have to look at screen space versus world space. All 3D graphics has this two different ideas, and the transforms is going to be a big topic. So anyway, we have a lot to cover, and I'm not going to rush through it. So if like one of the reasons it's a little open-ended is that usually what happens is we have a lot of conversations because people are interested in stuff, and we just start talking. And then if we dive a little bit deeper in some areas and we're a little light in others, it's whatever people are really interested in, and that'll be what the quiz is on, because that's what we ended up talking about. So that's the syllabus. Is there any comments so far? Basically, we're going to learn the nuts and bolts of how to build games, and we break the class up into 4 sections and take 4 multiple choice quizzes.
Yes, hello, Professor?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, check my mic. I was gonna say, yeah, so I was gonna say, I'm from our, like, previous class, yeah, like, for semester, like, IT201.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, yeah, so, yeah, basically, yeah, you went over everything about, like, this course's, like, subjects and everything, and basically it's gonna be similar to, like, IT201 in terms of, like, the whole,
Structure.
Yeah, structure of the course, yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna
lecture for 3 weeks and then take a quiz. But yeah, somebody's asking about project work. Yeah, so I'm only going to be lecturing for about half. We have 2 classes, Tuesday, Friday every week. I'm going to be lecturing for about half the class, and then you have to take stuff up. You actually have to do what I'm doing. So you'll be doing stuff. It's going to be project based. You can explore ideas, but usually what happens at this level of skill is that you're going to hit a lot of issues. You're going to hit a lot of dead ends, a lot of errors. And it's more about understanding why something is working or isn't working than like this isn't a game design course, and I don't want people coming in and saying I want to do this, because then you get stuck on trying to do that for most of the class or most of the section of the class. You're not really learning parts of it. You're just like fixated on making like a hack and slash or something, and you're not really focusing on learning about the game engine. So you can I love hack and slash, and I'm trying to figure out different parts of it, and like you could be working on little mini game ideas, but I'm not that's a fun open-sided part of the class. It's not like what the grading will be on, I should say. So if you're able to achieve something outside of like the micro games that we're going to reverse engineer, that's great. But it's more about, so I listed these three here. Here's a 2D platformer. So this is an interesting game to take apart because platformers are popular, and this is a 2D game, so you get to talk about what's happening with all the 2D parts. Karting is 3D, and it's like heavily physics based. And first person shooter is 3D, and it's there is physics, but it's a lot more like gameplay based. So we get to like really dive into different parts of the Unity engine with these three, and if like you want to try to modify it and do something, that's awesome. But it's more about like what is how is this stuff working all together.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be like how is this gameplay code interacting with these animation systems, with these particle systems, with this physics checks, and like how is this game running at any point in time? How's all these game systems working? That's really what the core of this class is. So if you're able to make something on the side, that's great. But I'll say it's project work because you have to like do what I'm doing. You have to break stuff apart. But if you get it really quickly and you get the concepts and like you're not running into dead ends, which is okay if you're running into dead ends because you're learning it for the first time. But if you're like ahead of the game, more often than not, only because you have more experience than the other students, then you can start modding and riffing and doing stuff for other classes with that extra time. That's fine. Usually, a lot of people are new to this stuff and they're going to get bogged down. It's game engines are complicated and there's a lot of moving parts that work together, and that's what I'm spending my time here with. And we'll see at the end of this class. I'd like to try and get the platformer open, and I'm just going to show you how some parts of it are working, and then you'll see that there's a lot of stuff going on here. So yes, this is kind of like 201, but 201 is like a survey class. It's like, isn't this fun? Let's learn some stuff about programming. This is actually gonna we're going deep into like how's stuff working, as deep as we can get. All right, so is anyone stuck on the install phase? Anything ran? Is anyone actually able to complete the install phase?
It's just still loading for me for Visual Studio.
Okay, it's still installed. You're in one of the last phases. You're installing Visual Studio. Cool. Well, I'm gonna move ahead, and I'm recording this, so it's okay if you're not at this stage because after class, when you are at the stage, you can start to do this stuff, and I'm going to do it again on Friday as well. So all I want to do is, for right now, I'm going to go to projects, and I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to start off with a 2D project. So I'm going to have to explain what the difference is between 2D and 3D. And just notice as I scroll down, there's a lot more. These are kind of like templates, like starting settings for the project. You can always change them around and stuff, but it's a good to like whatever you're trying to build, you kind of start off with that template. So for example, virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D and 2D for the phone for mobile development, which is very different just because you have a lot more hardware constraints, and usually the interaction design is very different. But anyway, we have the basic 2D and basic 3D. URP just means a type of rendering pipeline. We'll get into rendering pipelines later. Rendering pipelines mean all the steps it takes to get stuff rendered onto your computer screen. But for now, I'm just going to do a basic 2D. And I save all my stuff to the default just because I have more room there. And just before I already created it. Let me delete that. All right, I just wanted to get rid of that project because I was just messing around before class, but I want to actually show you the steps. I don't want to just jump into it. All right, so okay, that's good. So the first one open, platformer micro game. You can call it what you want. It's good to get in the convention of not using spaces because you're going to do this a lot with programming. Spaces can really lead to like invalid situations with programming and file names. So we do what's called camel case or Pascal case. We'll just say camel case, meaning when you move on to another word, it's uppercase. And there's no space in between them, and the uppercase lets you read the words. I'm going to choose my location, and you have to choose your cloud organization. So you should just have your name, and that should be fine. But once you do all that, notice create project becomes active, and we're going to create that project, and this is going to take a while. So a lot of this stuff get used to doing outside class time. I'm going to do, show you the whole steps for the first class, just like so that you can see what it's like before you do it. But you're going to do this a lot outside class time, just so we're not sitting around in class. So right now I'm creating a new project, an empty project. This is what the splash screen looks like, and you can kind of tell the progress, but like what it's currently doing, what it's opening, and the install bar you see. So package managers is like a lot of external stuff that comes along installed with the engine. If you've been familiar with web development stuff, like packages are used a lot for like all these dependencies, like libraries and other code sets that are coming along. And you might, like in web development, for like Docker and Node, npm for the package manager of Node. Anyway, it's a pretty common concept in computer science, and we're actually going to use the package manager quite a bit with Unity, and especially when we're bringing in these micro games. And if like you ever have to bring in other assets or stuff that's coming from Unity and not like from third party. So I should say that the asset store is like mostly third party stuff. There's definitely Unity stuff in here, but it does have a very vibrant community of people. Actually, now I'm talking about Unity. Maybe I'll talk just very briefly on Got It, just because I know that there's been a big movement in. I don't know if you're part of IGDA, the Independent Game Developers Association group at NJIT. But I know through talking with students that so it happened over this last year or so is that Unity did this like crazy change in how they're charging their developers for their games, and the whole community went up in an uproar, and it's like a big rift between Unity and its developer community, and a lot of developers went over to a free game engine substitute called Got It, and I heard that the IGDA bounced over there too. But our program's still in Unity, so just to know that there are other game engines, and that Got It had become popular. But then there was kind of, I tried it out too. A lot was they kind of, I think a lot of people are still using it, but I think there's a lot of realization that it's just not as robust yet. But if you're over there, that's fine. We're just, all the game engine principles are very similar across all these game engines, so it's like a lot of this stuff is transferable, but this gaming program is still done in Unity, and it's still like a good skill set. Like if you do try to get into the industry, like Unity still used a lot. I think that the CEO actually resigned. They have like they apologized for the rift, and I don't know the whole details at this point, but I think maybe they backtracked and they're not doing the charge they did. Anyway, I just want to mention the whole Gata thing. And so the asset store is really third-party stuff, although there's some Unity stuff in here. We are going to use the package manager quite a bit for Unity direct stuff. Cool. So Unity editor opened. Yeah, Game Maker is still really popular. There's like an RPG one that's really popular too. You can't go wrong with in your learning curves. Just grab stuff. Like even with programming, learning different languages only makes you stronger at programming in general. So like learning different game engines makes you stronger as a game developer too. It's kind of interesting. I could say like I've been in like full-time Unity for over 10 years. Then you kind of recently I had to shift out into other game engines for my contracting, and I can say that it is interesting. You do grow a lot, so it's very useful to explore different programming languages, different like design paradigms, and different game engines, because it just kind of grows you in the long run. Cool. Anyway, so Unity editor is open. Here we have the project name. We have the scene. So you need some type of scene to start with. We just have a sample scene. We have what you're building for. Right now we're building for standalone, which is Windows, Mac, Linux, desktops, but you could build for other stuff like mobile or web. And here's the Unity editor version. So this is what the Unity editor looks like as opposed to Unity Hub. Unity Hub's like a management tool, and Unity editor is where you're actually going to build your game project in. Let me, I realized I had the chat panel open all the time and I'm sharing my screen. All right, so now just Unity editor in a nutshell. We have like the basic file menus at the top, command menus at the top. Like you can do most everything that you could do with Unity editor, you could do up here. And then a lot of the stuff is some of it's duplicated, and then like each of these window panes kind of do some very unique stuff, but just know like very standard. You can do a lot of stuff with Unity editor right up here. And as you come down here, you have like your account is like some cloud. I think this is version control. We don't really use this part. The hierarchy is going to be very important. The scene view is going to be very important. There's also the game view with the player sees, the asset store, which you can also, it looks like they don't want you using this asset store, so I'm going to close it. So these are different tabs, and they're laid out like this. And if you ever close something, you can always find everything under a window. So for example, asset store or package manager. Package manager we'll be looking at in a moment. I'm just going to close that. And then over here you have the inspector, which gives you the details of whatever you're clicking on. So I have something clicked on up here, but I can also come down here, and in this case, there's not much to show of this, but it'll show you the details that we have clicked on down here. This is the project view. And you can think of the project view as like your file system. This is all your stuff saved to hard disk. And the hierarchy is like your object hierarchy. This is your game scene. So this is everything stored in memory that builds up your game scene. Usually your game is too complicated. It'll be broken out into multiple scenes, like start scene, pause menu, level 1, level 2, what have you. And your scene view is like your visual look into the scene of what's happening, and the game view will be what the player sees. And when you click play, you can run the game in editor, so you don't have to build it, which takes a long time to do a lot of quick edits and changes. And then up here we have layers, which we'll get into later. Interesting, they have layout now. So if you ever mess anything up, so all these are floatable, attachable, changeable, but if you ever mess everything up and you just don't know what happened, layout and go to back to default. All right. And at this point I have an empty project, and all I wanted to do at this point was to show you that one of the links here, platformer micro game, will take you to here. So we can go into the asset store. In this case, this is in the asset store, and it was something created by Unity, and it's for free. And we can click open and click open Unity editor. And this opens the package manager. So this is one of the windows I was showing you. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. It's from Unity. And some really good resources. But in this case, what we want is this platformer micro game. So here we have like all of the packages. And up here is, you can look in like Unity registry, which is like all the stuff offered by Unity. And this is mine. This is stuff like I've downloaded over the years, either from the asset store or through the package manager. And here we see that we're on version 3 of the platformer game, and I've already installed it. But let me click on something else. You see that this means basically I've already downloaded this asset. Let me just find something else. Just say these 5 steampunk glasses, like this came from the asset store. These are just 3D models. I use this in another game project. So this is a 3D model with materials that come along for the ride. So you have like a fully renderable 3D object. And I got it from the asset store, and you could just click download. And notice how we're going through a download phase right here. You see the spinning icon. And now we can import it into our project, and you see that the symbol's changed. So I'm going to go back to platformer microgame to show you that you have to go through a download phase. But when it's done, you can click import. And this is saying, since this is like a complete project, it's going to overwrite my project settings. That's fine, because it's an empty project and I defaulted it to 2D and it's a 2D game, so everything should be fine. I'm going to import. And you do the install upgrade, sure. So this is looking at other package. I already went through this, and it was like, it's depending upon other packages. It might be like text, something dealing with fonts, or it might be something dealing with textures, or something else that Unity needs. So it's going through the dependencies of other packages that this package needs, and it's all handled through the package manager. Yeah, it's a little lengthy. It's okay. That's why I say a lot of this stuff you're going to do offline, but we're going to watch it once so that we can understand what's expected. While this is happening, let me know how everyone's doing, especially if somebody is stuck. Just double check. I had a little to-do list of what I wanted to cover. There's a study guide, by the way, that I thought I posted it. Oh, yeah, it's right here. So I'm just like listing out the major topics I want to cover. Yep, we're almost done for today.
I'm sorry, Professor. What's the asset pack called again?
You can find a link to it on Canvas here, platformer micro game.
Thank you.
All right, so this is the next stage I want to show you. When you're importing a package, you'll get a pop-up that looks like this. So we got the package name, little icon, and then it shows you all the parts of it. So this is everything that's going to come into our project. So these are all files. These are all things that are saved at a hard disk. So we have waves. These are audio files. This is what the icon looks like. That's why it's going to this nice folder. So it's nicely organized. It's saying these are all new, meaning they don't exist in our project yet. Sometimes you like want to update a package, or you might have some like overlap with stuff, and it'll say like already exists, or it'll have like a little update icon, like yeah, this file is here, but we want to like overwrite it or something. But these are all new files. You can like turn stuff off if you don't want it. One thing you'll notice with assets is like there's a lot of bloat sometimes. There's a lot of like demos and pre-assembled scenes and dependencies from dependencies. And sometimes you just, when you start to really know what you're doing, you might not want to import some stuff. So you could just like turn off a section or whatever. It won't import those files. But we are dealing with importing files into our project. And so we're dealing with the project view. And so under character, here we have animations. These are controller files and animation files. We'll get over that later. Sprites. So since this is a 2D package, we're going to be dealing with sprite animations, different images that are played quickly so that it looks like it's animating. So this is going to be a different process than 3D. So these are sprites, PNG files. Other image files you should know are like JPEGs, Targas, and vector 2D files, usually are SVG files. But these are called bitmaps, are like a pixel, little square dots of color information that are very similar to how the pixels get painted on your computer screen. And these are PNG files. I should say, with other audio files besides waves, you could have like MP3s are also popular. So we have some documentation on how to use this. And so it's a PDF file. And so that's another folder. So under editor, we have an editor script. So this is a CS script, C#. But since it's in this editor folder, this is a little introduction that we're going to have C# scripts that can run at runtime. That's going to be your game logic. And sometimes you want to write C# scripts that are run in the editor to help you visualize what's happening or help you with your development. And we'll look at editor scripts. And then under environment, we have sprites. So like things like clouds and fences and houses, midgrounds and tiles to build up the level. And for some reason we have tile folder, and the names seem kind of the same. So they might be duplicated. So maybe it's just a little messy project that could be cleaned up. So we have mod assets, 2D props. So prefabs, we'll be talking about game objects versus prefabs. Game objects are like stuff you assemble in your hierarchy at runtime live in your memory, and prefabs are when you pull them down, when the game objects get saved to file, they get saved in your project because you want to reuse them quickly and easily, and you save them out as prefabs. And so we have some 2D props. Looks like we have archway, obelisk, pillar. I don't think it looks like this is a mod asset. These are like assets, big broad set of assets for different type of games. We're not using them all, but some of the stuff, like ancient stuff, we're not using. Maybe some of this billboard stuff. But like food, I don't remember food in this game, like gummy bears and licorices. But it's interesting. This is the kind of bloat I'm talking about. This is a lot of like modular kit that they're using, only some parts of it. Like nature, some like cactuses and fir trees. I've played this. We're not using that. Asteroids and rockets. Nope. So it looks. I don't know what in here that we're using, but we'll figure it out later once I start picking apart the game level. So bouncy effects, fireworks, and glowy, custom materials. So additive, emissives. We'll look at these and start to make sense of what materials are. In this case, how they're being used in the 2D situation. Environment sprites. Sure. Looks like they're a little different. Cloud brown, cloud yellow, as opposed to what was before, was just like cloud green, magenta. All right. Different color sets of all the environment props. Sure. These environment props are definitely being used in the game. Let's see, we got different fonts. So you get like one basic default font with Unity, but fonts are a big upgrade. So you have some fonts, a sprite. So you have some scripts. We got something in the back end. So this is like the platformer. This is like the main game stuff. We have to take a look at what this backend script is doing. And then we have shaders, so we have to get a difference of what are shaders and materials and textures. And then we have some more sprites. But, okay, these textures again. Trail materials is something new. There was some duplication in here. So laser trail, fire trail, some confetti, particle prefab, power-ups, trail prefabs. So a lot more prefabs. You'll get used to all this like names and stuff. This is all new to you. It's a type of text, readme text. We'll probably have to look at that. Okay, we got our prefabs here, buttons, enemy player, tiles, UI canvas. These are going to be important to the game. Rendering, post-process volumes. We'll look at these. We're not going to get so deep in the render pipeline. But it is interesting. Notice it's like warning, and we have like an overlap. So there's already a sample scene. Yep, because a sample scene just comes in for default. It's just like a really basic scene. So like there's a difference between new and something that exists. We need to overwrite it. And then we have our scripts, so our core scripts. It's great. I don't know if all this is being used. Yeah, probably. And all of our gameplay scripts, mechanics. Take a look at all this. The model, UI. So this is following a model view. So some of my issues with is like usually there's over engineering going on. Some of these packages. So I mean it's good to look at stuff. I'll try to simplify some of the code so it's easier to understand. But some of these projects I notice are a little over engineered for what they're doing. And for learning principles, you kind of want to go simpler than. But anyway. So all these like render pipeline settings, setting up different type of render pipelines. Text Mesh Pro is a big resource. Notice there's like a lot of stuff in here. This is actually its own package, and it's like a really high-end text rendering solution for Unity. So you get nice, crisp-looking text. And we have some tile assets. So this must be using like a tiling system with Unity. For the 2D, it's like how to like pop down little squares of sprites, textures, and to build a level really quickly with tiles. And it looks like this is like the tutorial system. Like these things have interactive tutorials in Unity, but to do that, you need a lot more assets, a lot more parts of your project to allow for like interactive tutorials within Unity. And that's what this all seems to be. And finally, I think I'm at the end. Awesome. So all of that's going to come along when I click next. And then here's the warning, like this stuff's going to be overwritten. So there's a lot of the project settings. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's going to go in and do a lot of tweaks. So we'll look at some project settings and what's happening. But I'm fine with overriding everything because I'm just opening up a template. And I'll let that work. And that's basically, once this is done, this is day one. And I'll be done. So let me know if you have any questions. Basically just click play. And if I could play the game, then I know I can leave you alone to Friday.
Maxwell, Professor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a question, but I guess I was just seeing if it was gonna load on your screen. But I'm gonna say besides the micro games, is there any like other recommendations you want us to like try out for the project, or we're gonna just go over that like throughout the semester?
No, we can find new stuff throughout the semester, but there's going to be a lot of stuff in here. If you've already explored these in depth, there's definitely other. I mean, it's not like you explored all three in depth because they're all.
Yeah.
I got music blasting in my ear. So if you have some different interests, I can go through the asset store with you to find some other stuff. But for now, we're starting with this. So anyway, this is what the platformer looks like. Notice how sample scene got reloaded. There's a new sample scene file, and we have a whole like scene going on now in our scene view, and it's quite a big level. Okay, middle mouse to drag around and to zoom in. Cool. So you didn't hear it, but when I clicked play, it was super loud. So the first thing I'm gonna just introduce you to real quickly is clicking on the player. There should be there's an audio source. There should be one audio source. If I turn this off, I shouldn't be able to hear anything. Let me just see real quick. No, it's turning it on in code. Let me turn the volume down. Hopefully they're not updating the volume of code. I'll get that later. Let's see if I killed the audio from Unity Editor. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay. So I click play, and I can play the game. So I know that I'm in a good functioning state. So I'm playing the game within the editor. So I'm good to go. All right. That's what I wanted to get to with you. And we'll pick it up next week. So right now it's just questions. So where people are stuck. Is there anything major stopping anyone?
Nothing major, just my computer is being a little slow.
Yeah, this whole process is gonna take a while. That's why I just wanted to go through it with you, and then I'm also gonna do it with the other micro games. But this one, I'm just showing you that we were able to get the 2D one going, and I'm gonna do the same thing with the go-kart and first-person shooter. But if I go back to Unity Hub, this is where I'm at. And so I could close the Unity editor and I can reopen the same project from here, which I'll be doing on Friday. But you need to get to basically the state that if there's any hiccups with the Unity editor, we'll try to clear it up this first week. All right, I think I'm gonna stop the recording now, unless I'll see if there's any interesting questions to tackle while it's recording. But I think we're okay, so I'm gonna stop recording.